Some people have been wondering why I've been telling people to hold off on buying Coffee Lake. My honest opinion is that I don't actually tell people to hold off on buying Coffee Lake. Coffee Lake is for a lot of people, especially like if you're a hardcore gamer or a competitive gamer and you need the best graphics now and you don't mind paying a premium for that. Your best bet by far right now is going to be Coffee Lake, the at least the i7 8700K. For everyone else, it's a little bit different. It depends on what you need and what you want. See, most people don't upgrade their computers that frequently, and most people don't buy high-end computers. Most of my videos are about people that are going to buy high-end computers. But if you're going to buy something low-end, say an i3, and you're going to be happy with an i3, your best bet is to go with the current i3 in the market, the i3 80, the Coffee Lake Series i3, and then that chip will pretty much set you pretty well for a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years before you need to upgrade. And if that's what you want to do, by all means, that's probably going to be your best bet to upgrade to that chip. It gets a little bit trickier when we move up from this, especially when you go into the current i5s and your current i7s. The reason I say this is because I have a feeling that the current i5 and the current i7 will be completely or drastically more powerful come next year, and I think that will become the standard for at least a few more years. So I think the thing that I'm seeing is that the current i7 will probably become an 8-core 16-thread CPU not too long from now, maybe even next year or even less than a year from now. I'm guessing before Ice Lake comes out, there might be some sort of refresh or Coffee Lake with an extra 2 cores, is what I'm saying. But even then, once Ice Lake comes out sometime next year is what I'm pretty much guessing Ice Lake will be out next year. We're gonna see 8 cores and 16 threads, and I don't think we're gonna see anything above 8 cores and 16 threads for quite a while to come. And the reason for that is because I think even AMD doesn't want to release a chip that's higher than that because it probably will cost more and there's not going to be much more benefits. It's also going to confuse the market as it comes to like programs and stuff. Like most programs want to be optimized to a certain number of cores, and if you make it too many cores and stuff, like programs are not going to catch up to it, and you're basically going to make your CPU slower because you're going to have to lower the clock speed, and then once you do that, just to meet the more cores, you're not going to be able to make better. I mean, you're not going to be able to optimize all of your programs, and you're just going to make slower programs and slower windows and all that. And that's not what the mainstream market wants. However, 8 cores and 16 threads is going to become very important very soon, and this is the main reason why I tell some people to hold off, because some people are enthusiast gamers, but they have like older systems, like let's say an i7 from not even 5 years ago, the 3700 or series, or I mean the 3000 series or the 4000 series CPU, even the 2000 series CPU is still pretty much a very good, competent PC for at least another year for the majority of people. I'm talking for the majority of people that want to play games on with 60 frames per second and not above that necessarily, since they probably won't have even higher than a 60 hertz monitor, so you're not going to even be able to take advantage of that. For those people, like which I think is just pretty much the majority. I know it's changing quite drastically right now, especially with people buying monitors, and it's easier and more frequent to see 120 hertz monitors on the market. For the majority of people at the current moment, you're not going to see much of a high upgrade for that. And on top of that, most people aren't going to go out and buy the most fanciest graphics card that can handle more than 60 frames per second anyways on most modern games. At least not in ultra setting, and I don't think people that go out and buy a graphics card are doing it to lower their settings. Even though some people will, just to get like more than 100 hertz, but that's for that market. Those kinds of people that are doing that, then yes, you're going to want something higher. But for the majority of people, like, you're probably better off just buying, like, if you have a computer already that works, and then you already have like an i5 with its last generation, a few generations ago, even up to the 2400K or i5. If you have that, or you basically don't need to upgrade right now, like, you'll probably be good for another year. Yes, there's a dramatic increase in gaming quality, But that's again if you're willing to invest the extra money. But in my opinion, like even if you can spend the extra money, you're probably gonna if you wait a few more months and if you really want to like go from and have a computer. Basically, this is if you want to have a computer that's going to last you several years, maybe even as much as your 2400K has lasted this time. I would say wait another year and buy yourself whatever Ice Lake comes with. At least anything that comes with an 8 core and 16 threads. And I don't mean, hey, go ahead and buy a Ryzen that has 8 cores and 16 threads. Although Ryzen has 8 cores and 16 threads, I still would recommend the current i7, the Coffee Lake 8700K over the Ryzen if your idea is to have better gameplay. It's just not going to happen necessarily with your Ryzen 7, even if it has 8 cores and 16 threads. Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 are still a pretty good computer to buy. I'm not denying this. Like they're still perfect for gaming. The thing with those computers is that when it comes to getting the most for your money, Ryzen 7 has its place in content creation mostly at this point, and unless you're doing content creation, you're basically not gonna need a Ryzen 7, and and that's basically going to be most people. And I'm doing this for people that are interested in whether or not they should buy a Coffee Lake. I'm not dissing again Coffee Lake because a few years from now, Coffee Lake will still be viable. I would say it could even last you as much as the 2400K, the i5 2400K has lasted for most people. The thing that I'm arguing about is that next year we're going to probably have 2 more cores added to that, and that's going to become the standard for high-end PC gaming for quite a while. And if you want to do some high-end PC gaming for at least the same amount that you could nowadays with a 2600K or whatever the i7 2000 series was, you're probably going to want to wait another year until that comes out. Your computer for now will be fine for that year. You can upgrade the graphics card and you'll be definitely fine. There is going to be some sort of bottleneck, but it's not going to be something that you will necessarily notice, especially when it comes to graphical output. You're not going to notice it as much. Yes, if you put them side by side, you're going to notice a drastic increase. But what I'm trying to say is that the games are still playable, and they're playable in a way which you can highly enjoy them still. And personally, in my opinion, it's not worth $1,000 or whatever you're going to spend on trying to upgrade it to an 8700K when you can spend that amount basically next year with the new graphics cards that are coming out, whether it's the Volta or Ampere, whatever they're going to call it. Whatever it is that comes out next year is probably going to be so much better that if you buy now, you're not going to get as much of a drastic increase. So even when it comes to the CPU, it's just slightly better to just wait till next year, in my opinion. Like, there's not really, like, there's so many i7s on the market, and the only i7 that I could recommend that's going to be any difference right now that you should be spending like $200 on at the moment is the 8700K. Once you're spending over $200, you should probably be considering something else. Like even if you're trying to just upgrade your 6700K or whatever, and you happen to have a C120 board, and you can update the BIOS and stuff, so you can install the 7700K. If you find a good deal, go ahead. I mean, I know some people that can get them for like $50 if they return them for used and stuff like that. It's a little bit sneaky. It's a little bit tricky. I wouldn't recommend it. But if you can find a decent deal and you're satisfied with that, by all means, go ahead and do that. But there's really no point to upgrading. Like, that's the main issue that I'm having with most of the i7s. Unless you're looking for something specifically that platform offers, and you just want to save some money by upgrading, then by all means, again, you can do that. But for those on the fence on whether or not they should upgrade their 4-year-old i7 computer just so that they can see a bump in graphics in 2017, it seems like such a mistake because we're at the turning point right now. We're at such a turning point that anything that you buy whether it's the best in the line, it's just going to be obsolete within just a few months. And yes, this is always the case with computers, but not really. That's the point that most people don't understand. There's a time, like people always tell you that you shouldn't even consider waiting because this always happens with computers. But this is not true. Like it used to be very true in the 90s when, because the second you bought a computer, like 6 months later, that computer was basically outdated graphically and otherwise. So waiting was only going to be a mistake. But nowadays, when you buy a computer, like for instance, Maxwell was on the market for like 2 years. Pascal's being on the market again for another 2 years. Like there, and then on top of that, whether you used it on an i7 from the 4700 and you went to the 6700K, yeah, there's a increase, but it's not an increase that the majority of people can take advantage of. And that's what I'm trying to point out here. Like, unless you're one of those enthusiastic gamers that needs the high end and is willing to spend thousands of dollars every year to meet that, then this video is not for you. This video is for the people that want to buy the high, like maybe wants to buy something that's very high end now and doesn't necessarily want to upgrade for another few years. And for those people, it is best to just hold off at the moment because we're basically at a turning point. And once this change comes, you're going to be grateful you waited, because having a computer that's like even a year or two old right now isn't that drastic of an improvement over, let's say, an i7 8700K, because both are still working within the same kind of architecture. You still have Pascal, which is 2 years old, and you're not really going to see much of an improvement just because you have a new CPU. But if you wait for Volta, and then you can add to your Volta, you can add a cheaper graphics card. Even I would say like where they call it the 2000 series, and then we have the 2070. The 2070, even though the 70 series graphics card is usually not that great of a buy, will probably be like $400, and will probably be like a 1080 Ti, but it's $200 cheaper, and it might be better than the 1080 Ti, much like the 1070 is better than the 980 Ti nowadays. Like, what are you really like? Do you really want to invest $800 at this point to buy yourself a 1080 Ti so that you can see the max performance of that, to only basically lose that card's going to lose all its value within 2 or 3 months from now when Volta comes out? Do I know that Volta's going to come out for sure in the next 2 or 3 months? The answer is no. But I'm guessing, since these cards usually come out around February or sometime within the spring of the year that they're supposed to come out, like, or we're gonna assume that since it's been 2 years, we haven't seen a new card. We're gonna see them sometime in the spring of 2018, and when we get these, like, we're probably gonna see a huge upgrade. At this point, whether you decide to go with an 8700K, which is probably gonna be the highest end chip out in the market at the moment, that's up to you. But again, we're probably gonna see a new Intel chip sometime within August. I'm guessing, and that's going to be your high end 8-core 16-thread chip. The thing that I'm willing to gamble on is that there's going to be some sort of Coffee Lake refresh or something that's going to be 8 cores and 16 threads come out sometime in the spring to make up before we see something come out for Ice Lake and later on in the year. And if we do see that, then your upgrade was pretty much best to have just waited for that one chip, especially if you want a high-end PC. Very high-end technical PC, because the question is, again, when it comes to a PC right now, you can buy the 8700K and upgrade to that refresh later if it takes the same motherboard, but you don't know this at the moment. Once we know this for sure, then this will become more of a easy question to answer. But at the moment, I still would recommend waiting for Ice Lake, especially if Ice Lake can still take the C370 board, which it probably won't. The C370 is probably going to be outdated and useless for this generation. This is the main point why you want to wait as well. Since if you wait for Ice Lake, you're probably going to get a better motherboard, and you're going to probably get a board that you can use for another generation. So once you have Ice Lake, or whatever Ice Lake, then whatever replaces Ice Lake the year later, you can probably use it, whether or not Whether or not it's going to be the best upgrade, I don't know. Whether it's valuable, because that's already 2 years away. That's different. But Ice Lake, when it comes out, will probably be your best bet, and it'll probably be the best thing CPU that you buy, and you probably don't even need to upgrade that for several years to come. And even if you do, you can just upgrade it probably. I'm not going to guarantee this because whether or not it's Cannon Lake to Ice Lake, the thing that I'm saying is like you might have the chance to upgrade it to the next generation chip in later on for a cheaper price if you want just a semi-graphical boost. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be even necessary to do that. But then you can keep that if Ice Lake is going to be 8 cores and 16 threads. You can keep that chip for several years until the core count and the thread count increases for whatever reason, like it did this generation. So if we in the future are using 16 cores and 32 threads, that's your point to basically consider upgrading. But as it is now, there's just not going to be such a point for quite a while. So that's going to be the one time when you should invest thousands of dollars if you feel like it, and you'll be fine. You don't need to even worry about the future so much. Right now, though, we're at the end of this current life cycle in PC history. This will come to an end right soon in the next few months, and it's just going to. You're not going to necessarily end up with an outdated computer. Your computer will still work just as fine as it did when you bought it. Now it'll still be high tech a year from now. The thing about it is that it's going to become obsolete way faster than your Ice Lake will. Your Ice Lake maybe will last 5 years where it'll still feel high end, and then after your 5 year mark, you're going to start feeling some differences. But your Coffee Lake, it can make it to the 5 years, but you're going to already notice some sort of limitations beforehand, and it's just after that it's going to go just even more downhill. If everything works like it used to in the past, like you're not gonna want it. But the thing you have to also consider is most people don't keep computers for this long simply because life changes. So really, you shouldn't even be planning for so long. I've had my computer now for the last 5 years, and the reason I've had it for 5 years is because these last 5 years have gone by so fast that I still feel like I bought this computer the other day. The point is, I didn't, but many people's lives are very different. A lot of things happen within those 5 years, and for me, a lot of things happened. My original desktop broke within those 5 years. A lot of the parts, so it basically made more sense for me to eventually buy just a new computer. So even the idea of just keeping a computer for that long may just not be practical because other parts will break and you'll end up with the CPU and stuff. But here's the other nice thing about waiting. Your Coffee Lake CPU will probably not have as much resale value than whatever your Ice Lake CPU will be. The main reason is because the motherboard that uses Coffee Lake is only good basically just for Coffee Lake. So if you're going to sell it, you're going to sell it to someone who bought also another Coffee Lake, who maybe wants to upgrade from an i3 to an i7 and things like that. But you're not going to see someone else wanting this chip, and it's going to be like one of those murky markets where you don't really know who to sell to. Whereas the 7700K, although it's pretty much was a bad buy if you bought it this year, especially if you bought a 6700K, it's just you don't need it. You didn't even need that chip. Even though that's the case, your 7700K can be sold to other people, whereas your 8700K leaves you in a position where it's going to be almost impossible to resell. So if you don't care about reselling, then that doesn't matter. But for those who do, it's going to be a big issue in deciding whether or not to buy this chip. I don't think you're going to be able to resell it to as many people as you can resell a 7700K or even a 6700K at this moment. But other than that, those are basically your main focus points. Whether or not you want a PC for several years is again up to you to decide. It's always a good idea to bet that you're going to have it for that long, since this is a huge investment. Most people don't go by the idea that they're going to sell their computer and keep buying a new one. But to those who do, again, this is not necessarily a video for you, but this video is mostly for those who really find that $2,000 or so is a lot of money and they want to keep this computer for as long as possible. So for those people, and to those who want to game with it, the best idea I still think is to wait for Ice Lake that comes out sometime next year. And whether or not it's Ice Lake or Cannon Lake, I can't really say, but I'm willing to bet Cannon Lake is only going to be a mobile CPU. So the way it was announced, they already announced Ice Lake. Ice Lake is probably going to be your desktop CPU come out next year. So keep that in mind. You're probably aiming to buy Ice Lake. For right now, if you really want to just game and you want to just game comfortably and not and everything's fine and everything runs and you won't even notice it and you don't really care that it's the most graphically beautiful, even though it's super graphically beautiful. It's just not like 200 frames per second 4K video. If that's not what you want, then you're perfectly fine buying like a 1060 graphic or anything within the last few generations, even a 780, NVIDIA 780, or you can go Radeon as well. There's many Radeon cards that still, or AMD cards that still are pretty good into this same level, and you can save a lot of money. You're basically buying it for like $100, and you can buy a computer, a whole, I think an i7 3700K right now for just $100 if you buy it used. That computer alone can last you another year or two, and you won't need to upgrade. And that's why I'm making this video, because people don't usually consider that there's a better deal for what they want to achieve with gaming. And we're talking like this is going to be 60 frames per second. You can probably do 4K here and there as well. Don't expect it much, but again, you might not even have a monitor for that. But for 1080p gaming, this will probably do very well. You'll get 60 frames per second. Your games are gonna run quite well, even modern games. There might be one or two games that you might not be able to play perfectly, like a above 60 frames per second and stuff like that. But even then, you're not going to be necessarily like impossible to play, and also you're not going to be like caring so much because you have so many other games that you can play at the moment. You have to also realize that. So if there's a specific game that you really must play for whatever reason, then you should investigate what PC would run this game, so you wouldn't have to worry about it. But most PCs that even have a 2600K at the moment can run some of the most high-end games out there. It's the graphics card that you're probably going to end up worrying more about. But once you figured that out, it's not much of a worry what you have, because like again, it does change how the game plays, but it's not going to be necessarily such a drastic, amazing leap that we need to spend $2,000 at the moment to just have a computer that's going to become half its price in 2 months and then also become obsolete in a few years. When if you really care about having your computer last you almost 10 years or so, or something crazy like that, and you just don't want to spend more than $2,000. Like, it's hard for you to make the $2,000 investment, but because you want it to last, and you probably want to wait for something like Ice Lake. At the moment, just make sure that you have a decent computer if you really want to play now, and save yourself some money. That computer again could be your best friend for like 2 or 3 years, depending on how you see it, and you might not even want Ice Lake when it comes out. But for those who do, like, you can even end up getting Ice Lake, and you're just gonna love it later on, and just have something to last you for then. Because we're talking seriously, top 6 months. It'll go by real fast, and especially with a already handy computer that plays everything. If you spend just $200, just think about it like if you were renting something. By the way, you can also sell it later on, and you'll probably make some money back. So it's not that bad. And that's probably really the route I would go with, because like I considered buying the Coffee Lake PC, but the only way I would buy Coffee Lake, and the only way that I would actually recommend Coffee Lake to people, is if they want some lower end PC, because that's what they always buy, and they do it every few years. And you're buying an i3 right now, then yeah, definitely, because then you can buy later something different, because you save money now, and that's how you buy. Let's say you just spend $1,000, not even $1,000, like $800 every few years on a new PC. And it's always like an i3 or something. Then and that's how you like to do it. Then definitely you don't have to wait. The i3 right now, for Coffee Lake, is pretty much spot on for what you want. But for everybody else who wants more power and wants to do it once in a while, you're probably better off waiting for Ice Lake. On top of that, the other reason I would tell people not to wait for something better is if you're considering mobile gaming and mobile laptops and stuff like that. For high-end laptop 6 cores and 12 threads is going to be something completely new. It's going to be amazing, and unless you have already a laptop, you probably that you don't see that you need to upgrade, then it's fine. If you have a 4 cores 8 thread laptop, you probably just keep it for now. But I don't necessarily recommend people go out and buy a laptop that's outdated, because your graphics card in a laptop will become more obsolete and faster, and you might not have like an Alienware enhance the graphics like an Alienware laptop, and then even if you have a different kind, it's always going to be some sort of bottleneck or throttling, because laptops are already basically outdated. So with laptops, the thing is like you're still going to pay a premium even when you're buying something older and smaller. And it's not like a PC. It's not easy to maintain. It's something different. And so for those people, once you get either Coffee Lake or Cannon Lake or whatever comes out for mobile, that's 6 cores and 12 threads, if that's the high end market at the moment, then yeah, you can probably go ahead and buy that, because like even if you wait a few years, you're probably the chances that you're going to see an 8 cores and 16 thread laptop aren't necessarily small. They're probably going to happen within the next year or two. But people that buy laptops also buy them for other reasons, and whether or not you need high end is the thing that you have to answer. So a lot of the things still are kind of true, but at the same point, there's lots of other things to consider instead of the CPU in a laptop. 6 cores and 12 threads is something basically unheard of in a laptop. So even if you're buying that now, you're probably gonna have a decent laptop for a few years to come. Granted, it is a laptop, and laptops will become outdated way faster. So within even 3 years, you're probably not gonna be able to use that. So you shouldn't even consider it super long term for a laptop. So that's the main difference, is that with a laptop, you don't have as much longevity as you did with a desktop. So even whether or not it's going to last you several years, you shouldn't really consider it, because it probably won't for the most part. It'll probably just last you 3, maybe 5 years. But we're talking about a gaming laptop where it's basically impossible for you to change the GPU. You're pretty much at a loss after a few years. So you have to consider that. Laptops are not going to last you as much, unfortunately, as a desktop. So if you're not buying a desktop, and then with your laptop, 6 cores and 12 threads may be okay for now, since you probably are going to have to upgrade it anyways in a few years, and you'll end up buying whatever new CPU is out there that's even stronger. Even if you buy a used laptop at that point, you still probably want to buy something that's even better than your current CPU at that you have there, basically because you want to also upgrade the GPU together with it. So that's the main difference. So don't consider again for laptops this much. So that's pretty much all my advice. Go out there and just figure out what's good for you and buy it. But again, I'm just trying to give you some points that basically you're at the end of your market right now with the current generation of computers out there in the market. And we're going to probably see a drastic improvement next year, just basically because we're getting a new GPU that's much stronger from NVIDIA. And we're probably going to end up getting even stronger CPUs from Intel, just because. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say. I know it's been a long video, but I hope this helps somebody out. If you have more questions, just let me know. I'll try to answer all your questions as much the best I can. I'm signing out, guys. Have a good day. Take care.